I just want to start off by letting you guys know this is not my story. Ever since I have been sharing mine, and others' creepy encounters, more people have been sending me their own stories to share. So, without further ado, let's begin. Hello everyone. This is my first time typing on a computer, so bear with me. Before you listen to my story, I just want to warn you, I have a checkered past, and this may not be suitable for some with weak stomachs. The year was 1865. It was the heyday of the Wild West. I lived in a small town on the border of Mississippi. Now, I don't want to get into too much detail about what I did for work, so I'll just give you the basics. This was right about the time when the Mississippi gold mines were discovered. I have never really had the best back on me. A childhood injury, from lifting bags of sand. But everyone knew these gold mines were worth their money in gold. Right around this time, I was living pretty good. Mercenary work pays well. If you catch my drift. I couldn't actually be a miner, because of my back, but luckily for me, the mob had their boot up the ass of these recently discovered gold mines. Oh yeah, right up the cheeks. So what was I hired to do? Well, the mines needed someone to guard them, right? Couldn't risk the damn Yankees coming to take what the mob had claimed as theirs. Meanwhile, I was getting kickbacks, and the mob was taking a presumably sufficient 90% commission off of their workers. Things were pretty great for a while, but shit always gotta start stinking eventually, doesn't it? I was a hot summer day, the kind that fills your boots up with sweat, and makes your underwear feel like a swamp gator swimming between two slippery-ass boulders. I just did my rounds of the mine, and everything seemed to be in order. It was afternoon, and my stomach decided I needed to take a shit. Sorry if I am being too vulgar for you, it's just back in my dad we were a lot tougher than they make him now. So I say what I want, and if you have a problem with it you go fuck right off. Anyway. My stomach must not have agreed with that carrot, so on ice I had to drink. I made my way to the bottom of the mine where the excavation hadn't been completed yet. That is when things started to make a turn for the worse. As I rounded the corner of the mine shaft, I caught an all too familiar scent. There was blood in the air. I took out my .357 Magnum, and searched the area. My senses didn't lie to me. There lied one of the workers. His head was completely disintegrated. There was no sign of anyone else there. So I checked his pockets, and took some of the remaining cash from his wallet. I guess, you won't be needing this, will ya? I rode the elevator back up. I needed to head into town and tell Don Winston. I made it to the bar where his office was. "Hey, Donnie!" Ralph the bartender yelled. "Care for a carrot so on ice?" "Nah, I'll pass." "Is Winston here?" "Yeah, he's upstairs. Had left the office all day since we've been getting these strange reports." "Strange reports?" I asked. "Yeah, you haven't heard? We've been getting strange reports of a deranged lizard man. I think it's a bunch of bullshit, pardon my French, but the locals seem to be up in a frenzy." "Well, I ain't heard shit, so why don't you shut your pie hole before I stuff it full of my .357 Magnum, you bartender piece of scum." I then proceeded to head up the stairs to have a chat with Don Winston. I opened the door, and he was at his desk eating a Salisbury steak. "What's fucking up, you piece of shit?" He got up and gave me a hug. "You want a Salisbury steak?" he asked. "No thanks. I actually came to tell you I found one of your workers dead at the bottom of the mine shaft." I took out his head and placed it on the top of his desk. Now I'm not going to tell you how the rest of the conversation went because that's private family business, and the last thing I need after me is the mob. I went back to my rundown shitty hotel room, and ended off the day right with an episode of The Big Bang Theory. The mines were now closed for investigation, so I decided I would sleep in. At about 11 my pager started buzzing something fierce. It was Don Winston. He wanted to meet with me again. I grabbed my coat, and slicked my hair back, then I left. I made my way up the stairs, and into his office. "Ricky, how you doing? Come in," he said. He was eating a Salisbury steak. "You want a Salisbury steak?" he asked. "Sure." I've hadn't eaten yet and could use a Salisbury steak. He threw one in the microwave. Now Ricky, let's talk business. I'm not going to tell you everything that was said in our meeting because that's private family business, and the last thing I need after me is the mob. But my next objective was to find out the son of a bitch who was responsible for the murder. I kicked open the swinging doors to the tavern, and was on my way. Now I ain't had a clue what went on in that mine, but I'm damn good at my job, and I knew it wouldn't be long before I figured it out. I entered the mine at dusk. The sun was just beginning to set. I took a lantern down the creaky mine shaft and navigated my way around the dry, dusty corridors. All was quiet. Too quiet. The body was no longer there. I figured the feds had taken it for their investigation. There was however a fresh trail of what looked like blood on the ground. I bent to one knee and swabbed it with my finger. It didn't look like blood, it was more of a brownish color. I gave it a taste test, and my calculations were correct. It wasn't blood, it was gravy. I followed the trail to an abandoned crypt that seemed to just have been opened recently. When I entered it, I was amazed. It was a whole colony. I couldn't tell what kind of architecture the inside was designed from, but my guess would be Aztec. I didn't see signs of any life, but there was still a trail of gravy leading up a set of stone stairs. I followed them up. To my surprise, the stairs led to none other than Don Winston's office. I opened the door. He was eating a Salisbury steak. Well, it looks like Ricky Boy finally figured it out. The person sitting at the desk was not Don Winston, it was the deranged lizard man. I took out my .357 Magnum and pointed it directly at his head. Freeze, you scaly reptilian fuck, before I rearrange your face. Now you don't have to be so hostile, he said. Why don't you have a seat? I can explain why, but for some reason in that moment, I trusted him. I took a seat. Now I'm not going to tell you what was said in the rest of the conversation, because that's private family business. Long story short, I started working as a personal assassin for Lizard Man, and that's how I got my powers of immortality. The only reason I'm telling you guys this is because the other day we went out for a brunch, and Lizard Man didn't pay for the third time, and that's just not good Southern hospitality.